Welcome back to Media 7. We're talking Obama inauguration and the media with Tim Watkin, Tracy Barnett and John Dibvig. One thing we didn't talk about a lot in the first part of the show was something that everyone talked about during the campaign, and that's race. Was it talked about more in America, do you think, Tracy? Or was it underplayed here?
Yes, it was hugely underplayed here, and I think that was the crux of this entire story, or at least one huge piece of it. And it was the emotional piece of it, which television does so well. I can remember, actually, you know who did a very good job of it, and there was not enough of it, was John Campbell on TV3. He took a piece where he started with Ben's Chili Shack, which seemed like it was going to be just a plain old color piece, but then he gave it context, and that's what this story needed, context and history.
It was a strong story, that one, wasn't it?
Because the reality is that people under, say, 30 probably haven't seen many of these images. Let's be very specific here. And he took it from Ben's Chili Bowl and put it in context of this was the place where civil rights leaders met and talked and planned. And then he went on to where it needed to go with images of Billie Holiday singing about men hanging from trees and burning crosses. And I thought that juxtaposition was really effective. And it was the only place I saw it on New Zealand television. I think it was sadly missing too strongly, because the emotional punch can't be overemphasized enough here, I think.
The race element is something that's not going to appeal to a small group of Americans who happen to be crazy people with guns, which is unfortunate. Obama has 80% favourability ratings in the polls in the past 2 weeks, which is extraordinary, but there are people who would probably like to see him dead. And it was interesting, I saw Charlie Brooker, the Guardian columnist, wrote a column that a lot of people objected to, saying, I was so inspired sitting watching the inauguration, I was also eaten up with fear and anxiety that the shot was going to ring out. That's quite a thing to have hanging over your head, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. You know, it's a perception that we have. I was shooting an American television commercial a couple of years ago, and we're at a school ground, and one of the crew said, John, what's the difference between here and America? I said, what? He said, no gunshots on school campus. You know, and it's kind of funny. He was trying to be funny. I said, well, you know, that's not that funny, but you know, it's a perception. It's a perception that is out there. That you know, I was interested. There was a black professor down in Christchurch, and he thought that if Obama made it through the inauguration, then you know he was fearful that before the inauguration somebody would try and get him. But you also have to remember, last year in Louisiana, a small town, at a school, they had a hanging tree for blacks. And they had a big, huge conflict about this, and some black kids and white kids got into a hassle, and there was some fisticuffs and whatnot, and the black kids were put, you know, like on trial for attempted murder, you know, and it just got to be ridiculous. And those kinds of things still happen in the States in isolated cases in small towns and in areas. So yeah, no, it's a reality.
You know, Boehner, the minority leader, sent out in his Christmas message a CD that had a satirical piece called
Obama the Magic Negro. Yeah.
Obama the damn Magic Negro.
It was astonishing,
For
wasn't
God's
it?
sake, it's astonishing, that kind of...
He's a senior Republican going for, it's the RNC chairmanship he was going for. Yeah. People like Andrew Sullivan, who's an avowed conservative, they see this as an opportunity for the Republican Party to reform and come back to the centre. Do you think that will happen, John, as a Republican?
You know, I think the Republicans are in a real mess right now, and they're scrambling, and they're going to try and get, well, they're going to attack. They're just going to attack the hell out of them, because they're going to try and establish themselves as, you know, front runners and back into it again. What direction they go, I wouldn't have a clue right now. If they had their druthers, they'd probably want to put Arnold up.
Except he's not eligible.
They haven't got a lot of options. That's part of the problem. Giuliani just went nowhere so quickly in the campaign. I mean, in terms of racial slurs, the Virginia guy, Allen, previously was all lined up and then got done because he talked about macaca previously. And most of the other candidates, you know, Huckabee, for crying out loud. What are they? There's not a lot of leadership there for them to go back to. So no, I don't know where they go.
Yeah. And a lot of them seem convinced that Sarah Palin is their candidate.
Well, she started up a fundraising committee, Sarah PAC, modeled after Hillary. And so she's serious. She's serious. And I tell you, the only thing I just don't get it.
No.
I do not get it. But
no, well, she did an interview actually with the only interview she's done since the inauguration was with Glenn Beck on Fox News, and she did not make any sense at all.
But still, 500,000 people are on her Facebook, whatever that might mean. And I listened on the radio the other day to a roving reporter at the Viaduct, and he was asking people. He asked an American gal what about Obama, and she said, "Oh, I voted for McCain." And he said, "Oh, you know, did you want, you know, what about Sarah Palin?" She said, "I really like Sarah Palin." And he said to her, "You know, would you like to see her be president?" And she goes, "Oh no." That doesn't make any sense. So the whole thing is...
Gentlemen, dream on. Sarah Palin's not going to rise again. And it's going to be people like, and here's my little prediction, in 4 years' time, you can hang me by the rope on this. There's a guy named Bobby Jindal, who's a 37-year-old governor of Louisiana. He's an Indian, as in from India, American. He was Cambridge educated. He's smart. He's articulate, and he is what the new Republican Party should look like. The Republicans are smart folks.
If you want a woman VP, there's Olympia Snowe as well, who's a hugely impressive candidate, but these people can't get on television. I wonder whether this is the problem.
It's not time. This is the first week of Obama's presidency, for God's sake. It's not time.
And Jindal's got a huge job in Louisiana to do. He's got to prove himself. I mean, the Obama presidency proves that you can come a long way. I mean, 4 years ago he made that speech at the Democratic Convention. Yeah. You can, from one presidential election to another, position yourself, which really hasn't been done before. It takes a couple of campaigns.
And I would have to say that would be fun to watch if that happened. We're going to have to take a break from the Obama-Rama just for a wee bit. I mentioned at the top of the show that there would be new features for this year. Well, here's one of those. Sarah Daniell looks back in Take Two.
This silly season is a gaping chasm in Medialand where nothing really happens. So now that it's over, maybe we should take a look back at some of the stories that filled the news gaps over the holidays. A popular standby was the scientific study. In the past few weeks we've had the Vicks Vapor Rub may kill your child study, the mouthwash causes oral cancer study, and the coffee stops you getting Parkinson's study. All of them mildly alarming in their own way. But our favourite scientific study turned up in Britain's Daily Telegraph. It announced this week assorted academics got together at the Sorbonne University to discuss a perennial conundrum. It wasn't A, the Middle East, nor B, world poverty, or even C, climate change, but an even more baffling problem. D, do gentlemen really prefer blondes? Yes, the Telegraph reporting the conference posed such brain teasers as, why does the blonde exert such a fascination and awaken so many fantasies? Why indeed? And the practical work is equally tasking. They're comparing various versions of the song Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend from Marilyn to Madonna. Maybe the question should really be, why does the media report such trivial things? Broadcaster Jim Mora thinks he has the answer.
Studies of the week are great for media because, I mean, the media beast is an all-devouring machine. And there are so many media all competing now for the newest tidbits of news. Publish or perish, that's what academics do. Academics crave the media spotlight as much as anybody else. So academics find, it seems to me, increasingly smaller and smaller areas of research to make a splash in. I think the public doesn't know which way to turn, and I think the public takes it all with a grain of salt. Iodized salt.
Oh no, Jim, not salt! We've all seen the studies on how bad that is. But back to blondes. It's sobering to think that even were the divine Marilyn alive today, it's unlikely she'd be up there on stage serenading Barack Obama. She'd be 83 years old, and elderly gentlemen would be pondering whether to prefer grey locks or a blue rinse.
Sarah Daniell with that report, and there'll be more of that every week from now on. Tim, you've been in an editorial role. You know how tempting it is to pick up a study of uncertain merit because it goes on the cover and it fills a page. And
yeah, well,
do we do too much?
Yes, of course we do. I don't know what we're doing, wasting our time with wars in Gaza and presidential elections when we can be... No. seriously, yeah, it is easy. It's a set-piece story. There are facts right there given to you. You have immediately one or two people to go to quickly for quick, informed comment, and people do lap it up. There is actually a seemingly insatiable demand for this. You look at any website and their most read pieces are often the most trivial. So.
What did you make of Jim Morris saying that the public takes it with a grain of salt? I sort of was slightly offended by that. We know it's rubbish, but people will know it's rubbish. I'm not sure whether that's quite where the media should be.
Yeah, no, I didn't agree with that, actually. I think people are right into it. Why would you have women's magazines if people weren't, you know, reading it and being attracted by these ridiculous headlines, you know, and you open it up and you go, well, it's a totally different story altogether. But yeah, no, it's an interesting proposition. We do throw out a lot of stuff, but, you know, we do lap it up.
Well, I'm sure there are studies that say if we talk about politics for too long, things go bad. So we're going to move on, but thank you, Tim, Tracy and John. Thank you very much, and we'll see what happens with Mr. Obama. Anyway, after the break, we look to the future of the original information technology, the book. Back soon.